Hello and welcome to Ecoholics. A very good evening to all of you. Today we will discuss the important topic, that topic related to the economic reforms that India can take in the year 2019-20 in order to improve the economy from the slowdown. This is very important lecture in order to understand the nature of the economic slowdown that India is having, and major important point we will get is just because of the solution. Now these solutions are important, and if you're writing UPSC examination both for IAS or we can say for Indian Economic Services, then these kind of solutions to a particular problem will help you to get good content and write this content into their examination, because if you write a good content it will give a certain edge towards your answer writing. So this actually will start from here. Now you know that the current state which India is struggling right now is obviously somewhat, we can say, a bad enough state. Now this bad state of the Indian economy can be termed as the crisis. Now here can say that these kind of crisis plays an important role in order to decline the India's growth rate to 5% of GDP in the Q1 of 2019-20. So quarter 1 the growth rate was 5%. Although we can say that this is not the kind of crisis that India faced in the year 1991, when the only answer was the economic reforms, that is liberalization, privatization and the globalization. Now at that time India was facing a problem, we can say facing the problem or the prospect that was unable to pay to the unable to pay its bills to the other countries. So the crisis of 1991 was regarding the default of the payments on the other countries. Default means when the country is unable to pay. Now here the problem is not the external, here the problem is more or less the domestic problem. So the problem is domestic, we can say, and it is also termed as superficial problem that can be corrected, because it is not as severe as we were struggling in 1991. Today we have the highest $438 billion of foreign exchange reserves. That is more or less we can have very stability in the foreign exchange. But here it is domestic, so we can say 5% growth, obviously we can say, is still a decent growth rate. Now here, what are the remedies that India can actually adopt? The remedies that we were actually adopting till this particular point was the most important is removing the controls. Now removing the controls like cutting down the import duties. Obviously these cutting down of imported duties or cutting down the tax rates like corporate income tax, etc., will not term as the major reforms. Now what are the major reforms now? Because these are not the major reforms, and if you see the major reforms that are yet to come, it means trimming some kind of rates, obviously not considered as a major reforms, but these kind of reforms will be helpful, especially we can say for the Indian firms, especially manufacturing firms, those who are actually importing certain kind of equipments from abroad or certain kind of intermediate goods for their efficient manufacturing. So these kind of things will help. Now what is the major reforms, or now if these reforms are not enough, then what is the biggest problem that we are having? Now the question arises, what is the biggest problem? The biggest problem, can you guess what is the biggest problem that India is facing right now? The biggest problem of India is related to the financial sector. Now this financial sector obviously plays an important role because it works as an intermediary between different sectors of the economy. First we can say the struggling banks, and second later on the struggling NBFCs, non-banking finance companies. They are into trouble, and just because of these two reasons, the credit in the economy has actually dried up. Credit has actually dried up, especially in the key sectors of the economy, which led to the domino effect. What is domino effect? Domino effect means the ripple effect, the effect from one to another, then to other two, then to another two. So that is what we call the domino effect in economy, and that is related to economic activity. Now, what is the major reform? Major reform is whenever the government will clean up this mess. If we clean up this mess, that will be considered as the major reforms. And these major reforms obviously must be with a concentrated effort. And these kind of efforts are required to minimize the depth as well as we can say the length of the crisis. So two things that we need to take into consideration. Like if you see the graph of business cycle, how it looks like, it is like same. It means the depth we need to decrease as well as the length. So length means this depth will last till this particular point. So we can say that we need to decrease the depth as well as the length of the crisis, and in order to do this we need major reforms. What are the major reforms? We have to clean the mess of the financial sector, especially the banks and the non-banking finance company. So this is the major reform that we need to discuss here. Another thing that we have, in 2016, government introduced the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. Now this bankruptcy and the default situation right now involving certain complex sets. It means this IBC is also struggling, and that claims multiple creditors, poor resolution process, and we can say the destruction of the value of the ongoing we can say resolutions that are actually uncertain. So we need that how we can improve the new investment in the country, because if insolvency and bankruptcy code will not work efficiently, what will happen that, because it means that new investment will not come into the country. Because if you understand the cycle, in 1991 the firms got right to entry in India. In 2002 when India passed the Competition Act, then the firms got the right to compete, but still until 2016 the firms were missing with the right to exit. So with the help of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code in 2016, the firm got the right to exit from the market, and that is, for me, this is the most fundamental right of the companies. So 2016 played an important role, but this new bankruptcy code obviously represents certain significant step forward, but yet not yet operationalized in the best possible way that India was actually willing. Now, what are the reasons, what are the concepts why this insolvency and bankruptcy code is not able to make its mark? Now what you have to do here, we need to understand that some problem lies especially in the judicial branch. So if you see the judicial branch, that is relatively inexperienced in such matters like of bankruptcy. Here we can say they lack sufficient competence, they lack certain expertise, and another large problem in the non-implementation of this non-proper implementation of IBC is the major political interference. Major political interference like political corruption, cronyism, and these are the reasons behind the struggling Indian financial sector. Here we can say the government, bureaucrats and financial regulators also lack expertise. So both the judiciaries And here we have under political, like bureaucrats and the financial regulators, they lack sufficient expertise and experience, especially related to bankruptcy. Now here, what is the solution? Solution, we can say, is to bring experts. And from where these experts will come? Obviously these experts are not in India, that's why India is not able to solve the problem. So the solution here we have is we need to bring the, we can say, experts, and these experts from the foreign country. And these foreign experts, obviously they know how, the condition, they are very valuable, although they are expensive. But here we can say Indian economy is struggling, and this means that India is actually losing or many billions of rupees, especially related to economic activity. So it would be an appropriate response to a slowdown or the crisis. Now obviously, if government does not seem to take the expert advice from the foreign individuals, the most important thing that we can take advice from the outside involving academics related to the people of Indian origin. But if you see in the recent years, I don't want to name here, but you can see in the recent years that a lot of intellectuals of Indian origin actually left India and they moved to foreign countries. Now what we need to think, that the situation actually reversed. If you see the Nobel Prize winner Abhijit Banerjee, obviously that discussion of Nobel Prize lasted for few days only, and other, we can say that other people actually attacked him personally. So there were certain ugly personal attacks on this um, intellectual. So we need certain kind of experts, and these kind of experts will speak their mind, and that is very important because their expertise providing valuable suggestion, they provide unbiased analysis, as well as they have specialist, so they can manage and accelerate the economy as well as the situation. Because right now India is struggling with the jigsaw puzzle, it means everything is fixed, nothing is moving. So here we can say that the another opportunity that we have is, we can say, the crisis driven down the private investment in the economy as well. Now private investment, as I've been saying a lot of times in these live sessions, plays an important role because private investment covers the major part of this. Now the problem is related to GST, and in the long run GST will fetch more revenue for the government. Like if you have seen in October that GST revenue was fall short again, and it was around 95,000 crores. So we can say that Indian government will raise more revenue if GST will implement efficiently. It means it will improve the other personal as well as the corporate finances, and if these two will improve, obviously the revenue of the government will also go up. And if the revenue goes up, what will happen then? The tax will become more buoyant. What's the meaning of the tax buoyancy? Tax buoyancy means whenever a country with a similar tax base, just because of increase in the economic activity, they will receive more amount of tax revenue. That is what we call the tax is buoyant. Now here we have the certain transparent privatization, well structured financial sector we need certain privatization in telecom, especially we can say in civil aviation, and these sectors are having potential to raise the revenue. So number one is the financial sector, the second one is telecom, and the third one we have is the civil aviation. So these three sectors in the near term can fetch more revenue for the government, and privatization will also benefit in the long run, like because money losing public sector enterprises we will remove. So the PSEs of the government of India, actually we need more fiscally responsible the firms as well as the public sector undertakings. And India has to actually force these public sector enterprises to actually convert into more efficient as well as we can say more competitive. Now, this kind of privatization, we can say, is should be wholehearted. It means India cannot or the government cannot sell the minority stake. It means suppose for example there is one company, government is having 100% share. If government is selling 10% to 20% share, that would have no effect because it will not affect the efficiency on the operations. What government has to do, government should sell 51% or more in a particular public sector enterprises. And this is the biggest challenge because government is willing to recruit them from the global pool, and this is the biggest challenge. If government will not improve these efficiency of the public sector enterprises, because it will become a cash drain for the economy as well as for the government. And you know that government is facing certain kind of cash crunch as well. Now, the complementary reform to privatization is opening up the entry, we can say, in the area of finance. Like recent payment banks, the small banks, these are also very good steps. Apart from this, the telecom sectors and other sector will also invite the foreign investors. Now here we can say because there's a shortage of supply of the player. Now we need to understand this carefully. Shortage of supply of players into the market. Like if you see in telecom, you'll get four or five big names. In the finance also we get four or five big names. It means they are actually behaving like a monopolist like they are behaving. And just by repeating that we will get $5 trillion economy by the year 2024-25, it doesn't mean or it doesn't get that we will bring this growth to India. The question is that we need broad vision. Broad vision, and this broad vision will be converted into the growth. So growth will come for sure. Apart from this, we need concentrated vision, robust economy, like competition, innovation in the next decade, because and that required certain expertise. And these expertise we need to bring, like people like Arvind Subramaniam, people like Raghuram Rajan, people like Abhinav Banerjee, so we can say Abhijit Banerjee, and people like Arvind Panagaria, people like we have a lot of professors um, from the schools, that is major colleges in United States of America, in UK, in European Union countries. So we need certain expertise because these people spend their lifetime on the research. So they have the expertise in certain area and we need to take their expertise. Now you know that right now in 2019 this government won the election with a major mandate, and they are also winning in certain states as well. It means they will get the majority in the upper house as well. So the next year we can say that there will be a solid political stability in India. Obviously, if we do not use this mandate in order to implement certain reforms, certain strong reforms, especially economically, because politically they are doing pretty well and they are doing things that will improve the India into the next few decades. Like if you see the examples of the East Asian countries, like East Asian miracle, so that East Asian miracle lasted for 3 decades, and that is not just because of the continuous growth in the export. That was also the reason that these kind of growth followed by the right decisions with the experts, global expertise, as well as we can say that they have implemented reforms at the right time at the right place. So we can say that government cannot escape from thinking, and the current government should use their mind and also borrow some foreign expertise in order to remove the economy from the slowdown and towards the path of $5 trillion economy. So these are the things that we have in this lecture. If you have any doubt, if you want to say anything, you can mention in the comment box. Otherwise, we'll wind up the session. If you like the video and if you think that you need something else, something more, other topic that you need to cover related to current economic discussion and analysis, that also you can mention in the comment box. Apart from this, if you have any doubt, again I'm saying you can mention. Otherwise, we'll wind up the session. Yeah, that's a good work by Aftab. We can say that. So these are the structural reforms that he said. Obviously, these are the good, like structural reform, like labor reforms. So we need labor reforms, and the ease of hiring and firing, that is important. The best example is of Rajasthan. You can take. Apart from this, the second, government need the increase the public expenditure in farming by raising the fund from Manrega to push up the demands by following Keynesian theory. So you can say that, but in Manrega we need to, first of all, we need that it should be linked with the certain inflation index. So that is the first thing we need. Although government has borrowed money, because till September end we have spent around 75% of the allotted money in Manrega. So we need obviously more funds till the March 2020. The third one is focus on promoting labor intensive. Obviously, jewelry, textile, footwear industry is also playing an important role. Regularize contract, casual and honorary jobs to make them regular jobs. This may be questionable because the government has doesn't have much money in order to make them permanent. The next thing is filling all the vacant sanction post. Yeah, that is the good reform. Especially in judiciary, we need to fill the vacant sanction post because judiciary plays an important role. The next one is the focus on unorganized sector where output growth. Yeah, we can focus on unorganized sector, but the focus should be on converting this unorganized to the organized, or from informal to formal. The next one is need to reduce the economic inequality, increase employment opportunity, and focus on human capital. That's great that government is doing. Also needs to revisit, rejuvenate regional crop planning, agroclimate zone model, higher possible level growth like agriculture engine of the growth. Yeah, that's great. That should be done. The ninth one is the indexation of Narega wages. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Needs to involve expertise of agriculture scientists. That we can do in research and development of agriculture. Only India spends only 1.5% of agri GDP on research, so that should be improved. The next was in intelligence, governance, resource deployment, and changes the farmer behavior. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, Geeta Gopinath is also one of the major economist that is from Indian origin. Capacity utilization economy needs to be improved. Capacity utilization, because we have a lot of unutilized capacity currently, especially in the power sector, so we can go and improve that. Then 13th one is increased addition jobs, basic health quality, and these skill. Obviously, these are very good points. After one point that is missing in this list is related to infrastructure sector. So this government is doing pretty well in infrastructure sector, and that should be accorded the effort of the government, especially in the railways as well, where we have new type of coaches and the road development. So that will play a greater role infrastructure sector. So I should add one more point that is related to infrastructure sector. Next point is IBC versus ED. Okay, Ankit, will do for sure. Whenever possible, whenever there will be no news to take up, I'll take the IBC and ED. The next question we have is the what the main reason behind the loan borrower farmers they are unable to pay their loan. The main reason is psychological, we can say, because they know that before the next election they will get the offer of waiving of their loan. So some farmers are deliberately not paying loans. I'm waiting for the next election manifesto. So the main reason behind of loan borrower farmers that they are unable to pay their loan, mainly we can say psychological reason, and they are actually hurting the credit culture. Apart from this, the government policies that are not in favor of the farmer, they are in favor of, we can say, short term, like implementing the MSP and again raising the MSP again and again. So that is actually hurting the farmers. The other things why they are not able to repay their loans is they are not getting the perfect price for their produce. It means they are unable to sell their produce at an efficient price level in the market. So reforms in APMC mandis is very important in this regard, like Agriculture Produce Market Committee Act. So these are the things that if we improve, obviously it will have a ripple effect and farmers will get more income, so they are able to pay their loans. The number one thing that we have is we should remove the policy of loan waivers. It is hurting the credit culture in the economy, because I was doing a survey in the rural area and I asked a lot of farmers that why you're not paying your loans back. They were saying that obviously taking loans is easy, but in agriculture it is also a lot of problem that agriculture is facing, because if you see it more dependent on rainfall, so almost 55% of India's total net crop area depending on the rainfall. So that is a lot of unpredictability in the sector. The second thing that they said that the main reason that they borrow money, they borrow mainly for the consumption, not for the investment, like investment in machinery or capital investment. They actually borrow money just to plant the seeds. If the crop fails, obviously they default it. So these are the reasons. So this the bank here needs to improve, because bank needs to give loans to the farmers for the long term as well. Banks are actually reluctant in giving long term loans to the farmers. They are giving short term loans like seasonal loans for 4 months, for kharif, for rabi, but they are not giving loans to the farmers for 5 years, 3 years maybe. So these are the reasons why they are unable to repay. I hope you got the answer of your question. So that's it for today, and do follow us on Instagram, that is ecoholics.in, this is the username, and you can always connect on my WhatsApp number. You can visit our website as well, where you'll find current economic data as well as some information about the economic committees. And gradually we are adding more content to the website, so you can refer. You can also contribute to our website if you have anything like, you can have material, you can have notes if you want to actually uh, cooperate or contribute towards the Ecoholics website. We will publish your name, because like suppose you have contributed to one article and we'll say that this article is contributed by this person. So you can have this if you want to contribute. So follow our website, we'll update on a daily basis, so you'll get the content on the website. Apart from this, we are having the courses of the economics optional, that is starting from the 15th of 15th of November, and all other courses like Indian Economic Service courses, and these courses are also starting from 1st December. So you can, if you need, you can visit our website or call on this number for more details. So these are the things that I wanted to say, and there are some more doubts, so we'll see the doubts. Mm, then need a Rayatu Bandhu type financial assistance scheme introduced by the government. These kind of scheme are obviously helpful, because these type of schemes obviously will boost the near term in the economy. Like if you see this scheme actually introduced by the Telangana government, and in this they actually implemented a lot of reforms, and on the basis of this scheme the central government launched the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi. So these kind of schemes will help in the short run. And I've seen the results, seen the role of NGOs, self-help groups, various other groups also, that actually helped the Telangana government. So Ratu Bandhu scheme is a investment support scheme, and that will help the capital investment, especially in the agriculture sector. So yes, that is a good example. We can say it is like a quasi UBI scheme, same as the PM Kisan Samman Nidhi that was on the basis of Ratu Bandhu scheme. Yeah. The next is perfectly competitive market mean. Perfectly competitive market means, obviously in real life we don't have perfectly competitive, so it is just a theoretical concept. But perfectly competitive market means where a single firm cannot actually regulate or reflect the price in the market. Like for example, if I'll give you the example of the telecom sector, like if one company will reduce the rate, if one company will reduce the rate, it means others will also follow. So it means this is not a perfectly competitive market. This is the oligopoly market where we have few sellers. In a large seller, like if you go to sabji mandi, so all the rates of potato, tomato, more or less same. A single seller, single vegetable seller cannot change the price of the market. That is the perfectly competitive market. Like in vegetable market, you will get 20 rupees per kg potato. So every seller will sell 20 rupees per kg. They cannot reflect the price, or they cannot affect the price of the market. So that is the near term for the perfectly competitive market. But we don't have any perfectly competitive market in the real world. This is a theoretical concept. So tomorrow we'll meet from Monday to Saturday and 10:30 p.m. on a daily basis for current economic discussion and analysis. So stay tuned daily at 10:30 p.m. Yeah, these are the good example, but we cannot say this is a competitive federalism. Competitive federalism is like ease of doing business that we are doing for the states, and the competitive federalism is related to water conservation as well. Competitive federalism is related to the health schemes, the health index that was initiated by Niti Aayog as well. So these are the examples of competitive federalism. We cannot say that because Ratu Bandhu scheme is actually a parent scheme. Yes, yes, that's right. Yes, that's right, after. So okay, we'll see you tomorrow at the same time, 10:30 p.m. Till then, good night, and don't forget to subscribe Ecoholics, and thank you for subscribing Ecoholics. And please click on the bell icon so you'll get the notification of the live session. So that's it. Thank you for tuning in. Good night.